Thank you for spending some time learning about the history of Smith Hill. Each of the chapters that follow introduces a place and a story that captures part of the neighborhood's history. Collectively, the chapters begin to tell a story about Smith Hill as a whole. My name is Keith Morton, and I've put together these stories with the help of countless Smith Hill residents and students in courses on community history at nearby Providence College, where I taught from 1994 to 2023. Smith Hill is one of 25 neighborhoods in Providence, Rhode Island. Located just north of the city's center on one of Providence's 6 remaining hills, it is 1 square mile and home to 6,800 people. Smith Hill has a densely populated residential core bisected by Smith Street, which serves as its small business corridor. The residential core was historically ringed by large-scale industry, including Brown & Sharp machine tools, American Screw, Nicholson File. People living in Smith Hill would leave their triple-deckers and walk or take the trolley down the hill to work. All of the massive brick factory buildings were abandoned by 1970. Following the opening of Providence Place Mall in 1999, they have been gradually repurposed as offices or higher-end apartments. Smith Hill's history reflects the transformations in cities across the eastern United States over the last 250 years. Originally part of the Narragansett and Wampanoag homelands, Smith Hill changed from pasture to city neighborhood as Providence became a center of finance and manufacturing, and it was forgotten, segregated, and impoverished as capital, industry, and jobs fled to the suburbs beginning in the 1960s. Census data of the last 20 years consistently shows that the neighborhood's density and economic situation leave it extremely vulnerable to external events such as storms, economic crises, or the recent COVID pandemic. The Rhode Island State House is in Smith Hill, as is the Providence Place Mall, but these seats of present-day political and commercial power often seem a world apart. The continuing thread of Smith Hill's history is immigration, and particularly the arrival of refugees searching for a new place to be at home in the world. Irish immigrants in the 1850s, Jewish immigrants beginning in the 1890s, Armenian immigrants in the 1920s, Black Americans who joined the Great Migration from the South in the 1920s and 30s, Laotian and Cambodian emigres in the 1970s and 80s, Central American immigrants in the 1980s and 90s, African immigrants from Nigeria and Liberia and Ghana in the 1990s and early 2000s, and more recently emigres from Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, Haiti, and the Middle East. Most of these immigrants have come to Smith Hill as a consequence of state violence, civil war, economic catastrophe, or some combination of all three. The after effects of individual and collective trauma sit alongside communal values of acceptance and empathy and care. History is the story we tell about the past to understand how we have arrived at the present so that we can imagine the future. This history of Smith Hill invites us to value community and to act as if it matters.